Hello and welcome to the first episode of Boys Gone Wild. It's good to have you here. I'm your host, Horatio Gould, the wildest boy in town. This is my podcast. It was inevitable. It was bound to happen, wasn't it? We're all going to have podcasts by the end of this shit. And I'm not happy about it either, but it's just the way it is. We're all going to have podcasts, so just shut up and consume it, is what I say. I'm planning to do this podcast, Boys Gone Wild, which is going to be focusing on just boys who have gone wild. Just get the episode. Each episode's going to be about boys. It's not going to be just about boys who have gone wild, but it's just a lot more fun as a title, saying boys have gone wild. That's why, as my background, I've got kind of my mum's old record collection. I've just got lots of boys who have gone wild. The madness. If you can see on the video, they look pretty damn wild. God, they must have been some of the wildest cats back in the time. Bach? Classical composer Bach? He was definitely wild. It's hard to think about, but they must have fucking cleared up. He cleared up. That Bach loved eating arse. You can just tell. You can just look at him. He loves it. Don't you, Bach? Oh, he loves it. Oh yeah, by the way, if you there's going to be a lot of riffs. I'm going to be talking about a set person, but I'm going to be riffing. There's going to be some hot stanky riffs. So if you've thought to yourself, I don't want a podcast with hot stanky riffs, that's not what I need, then this is the wrong pod for you. Move along, okay? There's plenty of other pods with just cold, squibby riffs. This is going to be pure hot stanky riffs. I will be making up words as well. I just want to pre-warn you. It's a trigger warning. I know that can be very upsetting for some people. I'll be just making up words. So you might feel old watching me when I'm saying hot, stanky, steamy, creamy, spicy memes. Stuff like that. General buzzwords. But it's probably just me making up words because, to be honest, I set up this podcast sort of to get my new following on TikTok, to try and give them something to sink their teeth into. So it's not really for you. It's for the kids, which I'm one of. Don't forget that I'm one of you. I am actually 23, so I'm technically a Zoomer. Even though I do look like a 45-year-old man. You know, I look like a miserable 45-year-old man. So, don't be fooled. I look like the photo of your grandfather when he was in his 20s. You know those little tiny miniature. This is your granddad. He died in the 1st Battalion of the Grenadiers in World War One. It looks like me, doesn't it? A small little black and white miniature photo. I look like I've come forward in time and started going on TikTok. I'm not happy about being on TikTok. It's not ideal, but no one, I don't get any views anywhere else. Look how many subscribers I got on YouTube. 43 at the time of doing this. Embarrassing. It's absolute embarrassment. You know, I can't show my face in public with those few subscribers. Instagram, I'm on like 950. What the fuck is going on? So I had to turn towards the darkness that is TikTok. Yeah, because it's the only place I get any respect. So yeah, I'll be doing some hot stanky riffs, you know, because I found my demographic. Children who like getting their waps out. Children. It's a disgrace. Yeah, that's. I did not think that would be the people who'd finally accept me. But it turns out, yeah. I was speaking about with this with a friend. It looks like the audience I'm building, I can't really use for another 10 years because they're all about 9 years old. I'm getting comments on my TikTok clips, and there's some like nonsense, people taking offense. I'm like, who's this prick? And I look at it, it's like a 7-year-old. I can't be having fights with people. I can't be having fights with 7-year-olds on the internet. I'm not at that level yet. But maybe a few episodes in, we might get to that stage. But yes, Boys Gone Wild. So the first wild Boys Gone Wild on the Boys Gone Wild pod is going to be Joe Exotic. Need those kind of mainstream views. I'm not happy about it, but it's what the people want now. And I'm merely a husk for topical commentary now. Look at how far I've fallen. Yeah, I watched the Tiger King. I thought it was great. I I don't really normally like Netflix documentaries. Like, I liked Making a Murderer. I thought that was sick. But then they kind of got really excited about that formula and just copied it endlessly. Like, most of them are utter bullshit. They're like 15 episodes long where they could have been 2 episodes long. They're so dramatized that they're cut with this sort of like 4K footage they filmed themselves to make it have this sort of gloss. And they just stretch stuff out, and they make you believe something that's not true, and then explain that it's not true, but that's because it keeps you watching for the next episode, and I just think that's a bit fucked. And they did that a bit with Tiger King, but it was such a good story that I didn't really care. But like things like the Madeleine McCann documentary, that is fucking shit. I mean, I've only watched 20 minutes of it, but I was also like, you don't need 10 episodes of this, obviously not. And it was just so over the top. When Madeleine disappeared, we had the whole Portuguese police force looking for her, and then it cuts to shots that, you know, they've taken their own shots to kind of like pump up and make it more dramatic. So they've got like Netflix cinema quality cameras videoing actors playing Portuguese policemen, like looking around corners. One of those shots was them looking under a fucking Mini Cooper. It's like, she's not going to be under there, mate. It's just, yeah, I don't know. It pissed me off. But the Tiger King, it was great. I really liked it. We're doing a podcast about wild boys. That's the most boys gone wild ever. I loved his energy. The kind of the Midwestern gay man. I'm a big fan of just that kind of mixture of kind of being super straight and super gay, and it's just great. And then, was that his voice when he was singing? So you know he did all these songs. That did not sound like him at all. That's my main question. Is who the fuck was singing, and why didn't they cover that? You know? Looking at tigers. That was definitely not his voice. His voice is like, that bitch Carol Baskin. Carol Baskin, I'm Team Carol, is my view on this. Because I think she was incredibly harshly treated by the documentary. Because it's not her fault, but she's not very likeable. She's not fun or exciting. Like, Joe Exotic, for all his flaws, he's entertaining. Carol, she's a bit dull, she's a bit weird. Hey, you cool cats and kittens. Like, it's just a weird energy. But the documentary makes you dislike her. But really, she's the fucking good one. Out of all of them, she's the least cunty. Like, even when they did that whole thing where they're kind of making you think that she's actually a con artist and that she's not taking care of the tigers and stuff. It's like, she's not breeding them. She doesn't have like 100 tigers in one cage. She's feeding them. Like, she's going to let them die peacefully. And I don't know, it felt a bit fucked how the animal rights activist was just, that bitch Carol Baskin. I think it was mainly because it's so much fun to say, that bitch Carol Baskin. I think what I found ridiculous, though, was how there were so many twists and turns in that story. But whenever something shocking happened, or like Joe Exotic got himself in even more shit, it would always cut to one of his workers, you know, the one without the arm, the one with the ex-convicts, the one with the long blonde hair, and it would be like, and that's when stuff really started to go downhill for Joe Exotic. What do you mean that's when stuff started to go downhill for Joe Exotic? Shit. Basically, from birth, it's been downhill. It's fucking ridiculous. But every single time, something that would be the worst moment in anyone's life that I know, it would always be like, and that's when things started, you know, to have a downward trajectory. You know, when Carol Baskin arrived in Oklahoma, that's when stuff really started to go downhill for Joe Exotic. When Carol did the lawsuit, that's when Joe really started to lose his mind. Oh, is that when he started to lose his mind? When Jeff Lowe arrived, that's when things in the park started getting a bit crazy. Oh, did they? When Travis killed himself, that's when, you know, I think Joe got a little bit of out of hand. Just every single time. When Joe hatched a plan to try and kill an animal rights activist, that's when things were starting to get a bit shaky above board, you know? That's when Joe started doing a bit weird stuff. That's when Joe started, acting a little bit out of the ordinary. He's got a blonde mullet. And you notice whenever he's stressed, he goes literally like a rat. I feel bad how much I like Joe Exotic, but it is bad because that's what the documentary makes you feel. Because you like his personality, but he is a scumbag. But I've got my scumbag rankings because I think this is what says everything. I think there's 5 main characters, which is Doc, Jeff Lowe, James Garretson, Carol Baskin, Joe Exotic. I think those are kind of like the big players. And I think you should all think about, comment down below who are your 5 biggest cunts. So like out of those, who's most or least cunty? I think that's how you can define you as a person. I think least cunty Carol. I've explained that. Carol Baskin's least cunty. Then Joe. I mean, he is a massive cunt. And I don't want it coming off that I'm on his side at all. But the rest are just such fucking scumbags that he becomes my 4th biggest cunt. And then James Garretson, because he's a little fat snitch. And I just didn't like him. Like, he didn't technically do as immoral stuff as Joe, but that little, you can just tell that he fucking, just that like insecure little fat boy inside of him snitching. It just really pissed me off. But still, he's number 3, and it was close between number 1 and 2. But I think number 2 has to be Doc Antle. I don't know how you say his name. The guy who had that harem. Because even though he had his life together, he was a scumbag. He was an absolute scumbag. Just such a sleazeball. And I think he's got away with a lot. Just something about him. He was just a lot more stable and level-headed than Joe, but was doing pretty much the same kind of things. And of course, the only reason you kind of forget about Doc, because the biggest scumbag of all, Jeff Lowe, number 1, biggest cunt of the whole show. He just really physically repulsed me, but he has that sort of way about him of like true cunts, where he's like, he wasn't even insecure. He didn't even have an element of shame. When he spoke, it was completely cold and dead. And like, do you see the bit at the end where he's got his new wife and he's showing pictures of how fit the nanny is? It's like, Christ alive. Like, I know all the guys in this world, in that world, were absolute dickheads, but it's just like, who are these women who fucking are attracted to these men? Just, I don't know. They all seem gross. Because it's very easy to look at just the guys as being like, these guys are just power abusing dickheads. But, the women still went for them. I've gone way over. This is going to be tough to keep it tight. I had lots to talk about. Doesn't matter. I can talk about it tomorrow. That's been the first episode of Boys Gone Wild. I'm going to try and get them out as regularly as possible. I don't really know what this pod's about fully. I know it's going to be about boys who've gone wild. And each episode is going to be titled with a different boy who's gone wild. But, stay safe, wash your hands. And I need a sign-off thing. But I don't want to say keep it wild. BGW. That's a hashtag I want to start. BGW. Keep it BGW. No, that's not good either. I'll work on it. It's the first episode. We've got plenty of time. You're not going anywhere. I'm certainly not going anywhere.